First of all, I did see that I was at 300 subscribers, so thank you so much. Now, on with the show. Are you looking for a new job? I know I teach a course at Cal State Fullerton. It's called Organizational Leadership. These students are seeking perhaps administrative and leadership positions, although I remind them that they're educational leaders today. Oftentimes, many are also seeking other opportunities as well, and I'm glad. And so, one of the assignments that I give out was to take a look at two job positions that they might be interested in, and then just evaluate them both. It could be similar job positions or different job positions or in different districts. The students choose what two job postings that they would look at, but I'm hoping it's a position that if they were to apply to a position or think about their next step or dream about their next step, even that this would be something that they think about. It begins with a description and then they evaluate it for its leadership opportunity for them to bring in all the leadership that they've learned in their educational administrative program. And then finally, being a school that has a lot of emphasis on diversity, equity, inclusion, what kind of social justice verbiage is in the job description? I'll tell you, just out of my entire class, very few of the job descriptions have been updated to include this kind of verbiage that really is going to allow a person to think about these kinds of things in their work. But I'm so glad that our students are having a chance to do that. And with that, I just really want to thank Kyle Nault, one of the students in our ED/AD program, who is going to share his sample with us all to serve as a student sample, but once again, also a great way to look at various job postings as well. Thank you so much, Kyle Knott, for your permission to use your student work sample. And might I say, in addition to doing an excellent job on this, I really felt your leadership and voice come out in this assignment as well.
Welcome to my EDAD 504A job description analysis project presentation. And as I begin this vlog and we start to get closer and closer to finishing our program, we really get the opportunity to dig deeper into our dream jobs or even our jobs of the future. And as we kind of get to start this vlog and I'm recording this project, it's always important to remain like steadfast in the pursuit of your dreams. And one of my all-time favorite quotes that I think is super pertinent as I start this vlog is that today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can accomplish what others can't. And it's important that we continue to have that rhetoric and that mindset as we move forward and get closer and closer to having and obtaining leadership positions. Now, as this rhetoric about pursuing these leadership positions gets closer and closer to reality, it's important to always have that inherent belief inside yourself that you are more than capable of tackling these roles, especially as all of you start to dig deeper into whatever that dream job is. I wish you all the best, and I know that you guys are all going to land on your feet with those jobs. Now, to start, the two jobs I really chose to take a look at for this project were middle school principal and middle school assistant principal. And here's kind of why. My dream one day is to become a middle school principal here in the Norwalk La Mirada Unified School District. However, like you have to become an assistant principal first. And I wanted to truly analyze what is like right on the horizon, and that would be becoming an assistant principal, and then what needs to be done to get to the helm of a middle school in my district. And I kind of wanted to look at both of these positions and really bridge the gap in order to kind of see what is right on the horizon, what am I close to accomplishing when I finish our program, and what is still a little further away? What is still a little further away? What are some of those targets a little further down the road that I'm still trying to hit? So as I reviewed these two listings, I kind of became infatuated with viewing them from this compare and contrast lens. How are the job descriptions the same? How are they different? How much does a job responsibility change from assistant principal to principal? And you'll see how I kind of analyze this throughout the rest of my vlog. Now, as you guys can see, even from the job listing up here where it says our mission statement, the district mission comes first on our listing. And you have to immediately think, how does my educational story align with our district's mission? and does it? And is this somewhere I want to work? And as you kind of take a look here, it states Norwalk La Mirada Unified School District, in collaboration with parents and community, shall develop in all students the knowledge, understanding, skills, and attitudes to empower them to become lifelong learners and productive citizens in an ever changing world. This will be accomplished in a climate that promotes high expectations, strives to meet individual needs, and values diversity. Now, absolutely, in terms of this idea of high expectations, meeting individual needs, valuing like our cultural diversity here, I think these are like some of the things that really like, and I love the word choice here of empower somebody to become a lifelong learner. And so yes, our district mission aligns with my own personal missions as I become an administrator. Now, first things first, when you even look at this slide that I just pulled up, when you look at the overall responsibilities of both positions, you can even just see right here from the eye test that the principal job duties far outweigh what is listed as an assistant principal. And what I first noticed is that these administrative duties seem to really take hold of the principal role, while the AP role is focused more on this idea of creating community and better collaboration opportunities. And I find that kind of interesting because how I view the setup here at school is that I think my principal is more of this person who's inherently, intentionally creating community and offering these windows and opportunities for collaboration, while our assistant principals typically here, and at least in my opinion, are doing much more of the administrative work, whether that is school site council, sitting in on IEPs, or handling discipline. And I think it's interesting to see how these kind of flopped in terms of when I was like analyzing the job listings. Now, this kind of leads nicely into my next slide where the listings talk about what one must have the ability to do. And as you navigate through the responsibilities on this slide and think about the terms leadership and administration, you see both roles really come into play with both job descriptions. Now, which is interesting per se, because here in this one, you really see that there's this idea of operations. And I'm going to start there with the principal. You see a lot more of language that is about prioritizing administrative leadership, but being able to also implement solutions and establish and maintain rapport with your staff. And I think that's interesting because when you look over at the assistant principal side, it's much more about, I think, maintenance and a little more of that administrative work. Where it says communicating effectively, developing and maintaining those cooperative relationships, articulating school and district policy, and it says organize a number of events and activities. Well, if I were to go back the other way to this principal side, we're focused much more on these larger complex issues that necessarily don't have more of these like specific nuances to them. And as I kind of reviewed this, it really felt like, wow, you're really in the trenches as a principal, because there's a lot more that is expected of you as you kind of move forward through this process and even doing this job analysis. And now, like, really, the principal position has much more of this intersection between the two roles, while the AP position seems to focus more on this administration aspect of the work. Right. And we're focused on, like, we're talking about these bigger picture items. It seems like the AP responsibilities are a little more specialized, which, like, at this point in my career, makes me exhale a little bit, because some of these other things and activities are different. And I'd like to kind of end this slide with this idea that the differences here, and even just what they have the ability to do, they're absolutely vast and recognizable. And even though I feel like our great like assistant principals are kind of like the unsung heroes of your school per se, because they often get very little credit, and it's usually that figurehead who does. But I think what's interesting here, and the last thing I want to say, is that there's not a reflection piece here. Neither one of these must have the ability to. I think there really should be a piece here that says must have the ability to reflect and learn from those reflections. And I also highlighted on the assistant principal side, I don't like how it says you need to be able to take constructive criticism. I think the more positive word that we're looking for is being able to take constructive feedback. And feedback is at the forefront of what good reflection actually looks like. Now, as you guys can see here, as I move into our essential duties and responsibilities, what I wanted to discuss and talk about was kind of the A through E, or like in other words, the kind of the top five. This actually lists all the way through A to Z. And I think that what I really want to focus on here is that all of the words here kind of are these action words and essentially kind of read like a resume. And these are the words you want to include when you're applying for these jobs, even if it's not within our district or somewhere else. When you really look here at what they're looking for, these are the words you want to include so you're able to get those interviews, is like my first one. Now, as I kind of talked about, our essential duties, the minimum, and must have the ability to, these sections on our application or job listing, they're all cross-sectional and they all intersect in some way. And as I navigated through, some of these felt like they were placed in the wrong section. Some must, I think, should have been in the minimum. Some must move from the minimum to must have the ability to, while other ones that are maybe even essential requirements, I think are more of kind of the minimum requirements. And it's interesting to see how we kind of move away from this business like IBM type of culture as administrators to much more of this holistic approach where we're really looking at leadership rather than administration. Now, as you guys can see here on this slide in red, it talks about the differences. And I think the difference in the principal listing and essential duties and responsibilities, it talks about leveraging programming. It talks really about inherently providing a conducive and safe environment for your staff. It talks about how you need to be well-versed and engage in the PDSA cycle. It talks about the necessity to engage in effective performance evaluations. And it talked about the ability to adequately implement and analyze resource allocation, which is different from the assistant principal listing, where the A through E are much different. Now, the assistant principal essential job duties and responsibilities differ vastly from that principal listing. But in examining the A through E here, you could see that these two listings, they really lack coherence. They don't align. The A through E here on the AP listing does not align with the A through E on the principal listing. And I think that's a mistake because you want to create a better shared vision. And I think both of these should align entirely. Now, letter B suggests participate in the development of the plan here. And that was literally what I took from the application or the job listing. And it's like, what plan are they referring to? So that's something that needs to be revisited. And as you guys can see here in red, the differences here are, as an AP, there seems to be an inherent focus with school site council. We need to be able to effectively look at, examine, and kind of finesse and work with the master calendar. And we must have the ability to relate to students. And what I'm thinking here, our assistant principals here handle discipline. And I think that's where relating to students really comes in, so you don't have a lot of discipline problems show up. Now, last but not least, the minimum job responsibilities are listed here between a principal and an assistant principal. And what I say about the minimum here for a principal, I like to call this, and I gave it a title while I was doing my analysis, I'm calling this the facilitator, because these types of skills that you see here are being able to effectively delegate, effectively facilitate, run operations from the figure helm, but allow other people to kind of be inspired and do the heavy work for you. Well, the assistant principal here, the title I give this one is the manager. This one seems much more like of a management position in supervising and communicating with others and making sure that you are able to analyze problems as they come. So once again, it's like the facilitator and we have the manager and how those work differently, right? Being a facilitator is much more of a skill of being an effective leader, while being a manager is much more like being an administrator. Now, to kind of close out my presentation here, here's my own take. I think that the applications in our school district for middle school principal and assistant principal can be improved immensely. Number one, they need to really focus on coherence. I think they should align with each other. These are people who are working together hand in hand, and there should be that coherence, and we're able to more effectively build organizational capacity. Now, which is something that's funny to me, is that as I went through this whole process with these listings, is that both of these listings lack humanization, which is ironic because the primary institution, as I wrote here, creating these listings and handling hiring is human resources. There's the word human in there. And this sounds really, really robotic. And for me, to kind of get more of that like social justice agenda where people really feel inspired and wanting to work at your school site, we need to use words like that are more invested in the human experience, whether it's inspire, to motivate, to galvanize. And those are the words I'm looking for uh, when I want to apply for some of these jobs, because that kind of fits more of who I am. And I'm a very passionate individual. And last but not least, my surprise here is that equity and inclusion are not mentioned anywhere in either one of these listings. And right now, we all know these are kind of hot button words in the educational world and even in our program. And I'm sure in the next couple of years, when some of these listings arise, that we're going to see that kind of language change. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I hope that you guys all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.